After the divorce, I completely disappeared from Gerald's world. No one believed I would really leave. People started placing bets on how long it would take for me to come crawling back. Gerald, full of arrogance, sneered and said, "Days, try 3 minutes. Jade is completely useless. She cannot earn a living. And she has no family. 1 phone call, and she'll come running back like a dog." Later, Gerald did call, again and again, but I never answered. He panicked. He searched for me everywhere. Like a madman. 3 years passed. At a banquet, I appeared with my daughter. As fate would have it, I ran into him. The man who once laughed at my pain now stood frozen, his eyes red. He grabbed my arm, his voice shaking, and asked, "Is she mine?" Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe to read wonderful stories every day. Now, let us begin. After the divorce, Gerald changed the passcode to our home. I still had a few personal things left behind, so I went to find him. When I arrived, I happened to see him in a private lounge surrounded by his friends. They were all laughing and making bets on me. "How many days until Jade comes back?" someone asked. Gerald leaned back casually and scoffed. "Days, try minutes. She is worthless. She cannot make money, and her parents are gone. 1 phone call, and she'll crawl back, tail between her legs." He removed his watch and tossed it on the table, his voice full of certainty. "She'll be begging me to take her back in no time." Someone laughed. "You think she'll really come back?" "Of course," he replied. "She cannot live without me." Cheers erupted in the room. Harvey, Gerald's brother, chimed in. "Do you even want to remarry her? Jade has chased you for so many years. Don't make a rash decision." Before Gerald could respond, another man cut in with a mocking tone. "Remarry? Gerald never liked Jade. She was the one clinging to him like a fool. Her figure is average, her looks are plain. And her parents died 2 years ago. What makes her worthy of Gerald? Even if she knelt down and begged, he wouldn't take her back." Then the man glanced at Lillian, who was seated beside Gerald. "Now that the one he truly loves has returned, what is Jade compared to that?" Their laughter was thin and sharp, like needles piercing through my skin. I clenched my fists, fingernails digging into my palms, doing my best to stay calm. When we were still married, I had asked Gerald once about this so-called white moonlight from his past. He smiled faintly and said, "That's all behind me. What matters is now." I believed him. I trusted him. I never brought it up again. Then, half a year ago, Lillian returned to the country. Gerald threw her a grand welcome banquet. That night, he did not come home. Then came the 2nd night, then the 3rd, and then I stopped counting. Inside that room, the men chatted carelessly. Gerald listened with a relaxed smile, adding a few words here and there. He never denied a single thing. Lillian leaned gently against him and said playfully, "You guys are awful, talking about a girl like that behind her back. Jade didn't do anything wrong, she just loves Gerald too much. But, it's a pity, Gerald loves me." She looked at him with flushed cheeks and affectionate eyes. Gerald was visibly moved. "I only married Jade because my family liked her. I have always been waiting for someone else." Everyone in the room understood who that someone was, and that was the moment I gave up completely. All along, I had sensed Gerald was distant, but I never found any proof. He remembered my birthday, our anniversaries, and always brought gifts. Every time we argued, he would be the first to apologize. I thought that meant he loved me. I never realized that he only did those things because he did not. 5 years of marriage, and all of it was just a performance. My heart shattered. I opened my palm, which had deep red marks from how tightly I had been clenching it, and turned to leave. But just as I reached the hallway, Harvey, who had stepped out for the restroom, saw me. "Jade, you should have said something. Come on in and sit with us." I shook my head. "No, it's not appropriate." "Why not?" he asked. Gerald had just come out of the room. He slipped his hands into his pockets and looked at me with calm, mocking eyes. "You came to find me, didn't you? Why are you leaving without saying anything?" In contrast to his composed demeanor, my face was wet with tears. I must have looked truly pathetic. But love is like that. The one who is loved fears nothing, and the one who loves is the one who gets hurt. More people started filing out of the private room, their eyes full of curiosity and amusement. Lillian stood among them, her gaze triumphant, looking down on me like she had already won. She smiled sweetly and said, "Gerald, don't be so cold to Jade, you just divorced her, she must be heartbroken. Be gentle with her, talk to her nicely." Gerald replied with a casual, "Sure." Laughter echoed around them. At that moment, I regretted ever coming to find him. I wiped my tears, cleared my throat, and said, "You changed the passcode. I still had some belongings to pick up, so I came here, but it is not necessary anymore. I do not want them. Sorry to disturb you. Goodbye." I turned to leave. "Wait," Lillian called out, walking up and holding my arm gently. "Gerald still has something to say to you. You two are married. After all, even if he likes me now, since you are here, some things should be said clearly." She smiled again. "Oh right, do you not love Gerald anymore?" I was still confused by what was happening. I could not understand why she was doing this, until she smiled and said, "Now that the divorce is final, you cannot cling to Gerald anymore. I would get jealous. Jade, you won't come between us, will you?" Lillian had always been a snake hiding in plain sight. Her words made my blood boil. I shook her off in anger. She was clearly twisting the truth. Gerald and I had been married first. She was the one who stepped in and took him away, without any sense of decency. And now, she had the nerve to lecture me about staying away from him. "Stop talking nonsense," I began. But before I could finish, Lillian suddenly collapsed to the ground. I stood there in shock, staring at the palm of my hand. I had barely touched her. "Jade, what do you think you are doing?" Gerald's furious voice rang out. He rushed toward us, pushed me aside, and dropped to his knees beside Lillian. The force of his shove made me stumble. I lost my footing and tumbled down the stairs, my vision blurred, and pain shot through my whole body. When I looked up, I saw Gerald descending the stairs with Lillian in his arms. His eyes were cold. "Evil never goes unpunished," he said. "You have done everything possible to hurt Lillian, and now you are faking an injury. Jade, we are already divorced. If you have any sense of decency left, stop clinging to me." Lillian looked up at him with red, teary eyes and whispered, "It is okay, Gerald. Jade is just angry that I took you away. That is why she is acting like this." And then, just like that, she started crying again. Gerald looked at her with sympathy, and when he turned back to me, there was only disgust in his eyes. Even the friends who had come with him frowned, in just a few words. Lillian had turned everyone against me, but I did not care about that. The pain in my stomach was unbearable. I reached out, barely able to grasp the hem of Gerald's pants. "Gerald, my stomach hurts," I gasped. "Please, take me to the hospital, call an ambulance." Gerald hesitated, frowning. "Your stomach hurts. Where did you fall?" "It hurts so bad," I whimpered, "and my ankle too." "Gerald, will it affect my dancing?" Suddenly, Lillian burst into sobs. "Gerald, what about me? Will it affect me too?" Her voice immediately pulled Gerald's attention away from me. His expression shifted instantly. He cradled her closer and said with concern, "No, of course not. I will take you to the hospital right away." "What about me?" I cried, still clinging to the edge of his clothes. "Gerald, please." But he shoved my hand away, turned, and left with Lillian in his arms. I stared at his back through tear-blurred eyes and whispered, "Gerald, I hate you." Before Lillian returned to the country, there had been no problems in my marriage with Gerald. When he did not come home at night, he would say he was working late. I believed him. I even reminded him to take care of his health. Then one day, I called him, but a gentle female voice answered, "Hello, are you Gerald's nanny? Sorry, he drank too much and passed out at my place. Could you bring some hangover soup and come pick him up?" My heart sank. I had never experienced anything like that before and did not know how to react. Part of me wanted to believe in him. The other part screamed that something was very wrong. In the end, I still brought the soup and went to the address she gave me. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. What I saw made me freeze. Gerald was lying in Lillian's arms, holding her hand. His voice was low and dreamy. "Lillian, you are back. You finally came back. I waited for you for so long. I thought I had forgotten you, but the moment I saw you, I realized I still love you." Lillian looked down sadly. "Do not say that, Gerald. You are already married. What we had is in the past." Her voice trembled with emotion. She even choked on her words. Gerald wiped her tears away gently. It does not matter. I will get a divorce. I will marry you. If you agree, I will do it right now. They poured their hearts out to each other like no one else existed. Like I was the intruder. Like I was the one ruining some great love story. But I never knew Gerald still loved Lillian. He had told me it was all behind him when we married. I was such a fool, trapped in a lie, spinning in circles. When I opened my eyes again, tears were already sliding down the sides of my face. Mom, Dad, I miss you. My stomach burned with hunger. I picked up my phone. It was 8:15 p.m. I had slept the entire day. No one came to see me. No one checked on me. I opened my phone again. There were a series of photos from Lillian, all of Gerald. In a video, Lillian's voice was soft and understanding. Why don't you check on Jade? She seems hurt too. At that, Gerald's smile vanished. His expression turned sour. Like someone had just dumped a bucket of cold water over him. Without a word, he scooped up a spoonful of porridge and impatiently fed it to Lillian. Why bring her up? What bad luck. She is a cruel woman. I regret ever marrying her. You are just too kind. Lillian, my heart ached. The wounds Gerald left in me had not even begun to heal. I got out of bed. My legs were weak, but I forced myself to walk. I went through the discharge procedures and left the hospital. I got a new phone card and called my grandparents. When my grandmother learned I had divorced, she broke down crying. Her voice trembled with pain. My poor child. Come home. Come back to Grandma. I said softly. Okay. My uncle had already moved to Country M to help take care of my newborn nephew. My grandparents had also settled there. They had been living abroad for many years. After packing my luggage and booking a flight, I left North City without hesitation. I did not look back. Just as I was about to board the plane, Gerald's face suddenly flashed through my mind. I smiled to myself with a touch of bitterness. If that group of people knew I had left, they would probably be celebrating. Back at the hospital, Gerald frowned when he saw that my hospital bed was empty. He grabbed a nurse passing by and asked urgently, "Where is the patient from bed 23? Her name is Jade." The nurse thought for a moment before answering. Oh, she was discharged. She left on the third day of her stay. She looked Gerald up and down, suspicious. Who are you? Are you a relative? I'm her husband. Gerald blurted out instinctively. The moment the words left his mouth, he regretted them. He had meant to correct himself, but the nurse spoke again before he could. Then you're really irresponsible. She was pregnant when she was admitted. She lost the baby, and no one stayed to care for her. She should have rested after the miscarriage. But she left the hospital on the third day. You better take care of her properly when she gets home. Make sure she pays attention to her health. After saying that, the nurse walked off, leaving Gerald frozen in place. Miscarriage. Jade was pregnant, such an important matter, and she never told him. His heart pounding. He quickly pulled out his phone and tried calling me. Sorry, the number you dialed is powered off. Over and over. He dialed again, but there was no response. Frustrated, Gerald stomped his foot and cursed. Damn it, pick up the phone. When the calls failed, he had no choice but to search for me everywhere like a madman. I was not at home, not at the Rebirth. He checked every place I used to frequent, cafes, bookstores, parks, but I was nowhere to be found. One by one, he contacted all of my former friends, hoping for a clue, but no one had heard from me. It was as if I had vanished into thin air. Jade is emotionally fragile, Harvey said carefully. Could she have done something foolish? Panic surged through Gerald. No, he shouted, she would never do something like that. But the more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. After all, when Jade lost her parents in a car accident, she had suffered from depression. It was not impossible. Just then, there was a sound at the door. Gerald's eyes lit up. Jade, is that you? He rushed to the door, hopeful, but when he opened it, it was Lillian standing there. His face fell. It's not her. Lillian gritted her teeth in anger. Why do you even care? Aren't you divorced from her? Whether she's alive or dead has nothing to do with you. Gerald did not reply. He had once thought that Jade meant little to him, but now that she was gone, he found himself missing her more than he ever expected. 3 years passed. I had gotten married in Country M and had a beautiful daughter. She was almost 2 years old now. My husband's childhood friend was getting married back in North City, so the three of us flew there together. After landing, my husband dropped my daughter and me off at home, then quickly headed out for a shower and a meal before preparing for work. Cradling our daughter in my arms, I teased him playfully. What's more important, work or family? You're always so busy. Have you spent any real time with Margaret and me today? Jeremy chuckled, cupped my face gently, and kissed me on the forehead. He then took Margaret from my arms. Honey, just give me 2 more busy days. After that, I will be all yours, I promise. Jeremy was a true workaholic. He loved his career, our small family, and he adored our daughter. He managed everything so well that I could not really complain. I was just feeling a little clingy and wanted him to accompany me around North City. All right, you go, I said with a soft smile. Have a safe trip. I'll be back late tonight. Don't wait up, he replied. That afternoon felt slow and dull, so I decided to take Margaret out for a walk. We stopped by one of my favorite old restaurants for lunch. What I did not expect was to run into Harvey there. Margaret was fussy and crying. So I gave Harvey a quick nod as a greeting and picked her up to head home. Behind me, Harvey scratched his head and muttered, "She's not dead. Jade is not dead. I have to tell Gerald." He immediately called Gerald. "Hello, Gerald, I just saw Jade." Gerald let out a bitter laugh. "Stop messing with me. She has been gone for a long time." "No, I swear I saw her. She was holding a little girl in her arms. If she were alive, she would have come back to me. I've been searching for her for 3 years and never heard a word. Goodbye." Gerald hung up before Harvey could say another word. He slumped down with a sigh and took a sip of wine. His heart heavy, he still wanted to see Jade again. The next morning, Jeremy and I took Margaret to the wedding venue together to deliver our gifts and give our blessings. Soon after, Jeremy was pulled away by the groom to chat about married life, leaving me with our daughter in the bride's room. Guests came and went. Seeing I looked tired from holding the baby, the bridesmaids took turns playing with Margaret. Even the bride, now finished with her makeup, came over to join us. "Wow, Margaret is so pretty," she exclaimed with a big smile. "She is such a sweet, gentle baby," the bride said, smiling warmly. "Auntie wants to hold you. Come here, let me hold you. I really hope I can have a daughter just like you one day." I could not help but laugh softly at her enthusiasm. Margaret blinked at the bride for a moment, then suddenly broke into a fit of giggles, wriggling happily in her arms and babbling incoherently. As the time drew near for the bride to go on stage, more and more guests began to fill the room. Margaret started to grow restless, and I worried she might begin to cry, so I quietly carried her out to get some fresh air. In the hallway, someone called out my name. "Jade." I turned slightly but saw a crowd of people and could not tell who it was. So I kept walking, gently bouncing Margaret in my arms. Just as I passed a group near the corridor, a hand reached out and grabbed my shoulder. I turned around and met Gerald's eyes. He looked thinner than I remembered, with sunken cheeks and red-rimmed eyes. He stared at me as though he had seen a ghost, his voice trembling with emotion. "You are alive. Then why did you not come back? Where have you been these past 3 years? His gaze shifted to the child in my arms, his fingers, still resting on my shoulder, suddenly tightened. Is she mine?" he asked, voice cracking with uncertainty. My mind went blank for a moment as memories from the past came rushing back. It felt like another lifetime. Gerald's face was filled with a mess of emotions: sadness, joy, shock, longing. I studied him quietly. He looked so different from the man I once knew. Gerald had always been confident and composed, always in control. He handled everything between us with logic, never once losing his cool. But now, he looked lost and fragile. I calmly pushed his hand away, keeping my tone polite but distant. "It has been a long time, Gerald. I am already married. Please do not cause a scene in public." I took a step back, holding Margaret a little tighter. His smile faded as he stared at me. Then, with a bitter laugh, he said, "There is no need to lie. Jade, you left without a word. No one could find you. Was it all just to get back at me? I have been searching for you for 3 years. Does that satisfy you?" He glanced at Margaret again, his eyes softening. "Is this the child from back then? The nurse told me you had a miscarriage, but I never believed it." I always thought, how could you possibly bear to end our child's life? Now that you are back, let us start over. Jade, the three of us can live together. Hearing him speak of that child sent a dull ache through my chest, but at the same time, I was stunned by how shameless he was. He actually thought Margaret was his daughter. He believed that I had disappeared, cut off all contact, and moved abroad just to get revenge on him. Even now, he still thought I was the same woman who once loved him deeply. My voice was cold as I looked him in the eyes and said, "Are you deaf? I said she is not your child. I am married. Margaret is my daughter with my husband. If you are sick, go see a doctor. Stop spouting nonsense here." Gerald was stunned, unable to respond. I turned to leave, but he chased after me. "How is that possible? Jade, explain it to me. Are you really married?" Before I could reply, Jeremy appeared behind me. He wrapped one arm around my shoulder, pulling me and Margaret close, and used his other arm to block Gerald. His presence was calm but powerful. "Stay away from my wife and daughter," he said in a low voice. Gerald shoved him aside, his eyes red with panic. "Who are you? Why are you even here?" "That is my wife, my child." I could not bear it anymore and slapped Gerald across the face. The slap echoed through the corridor. For a moment, everything went still. Gerald stared at me in disbelief, slowly raising a hand to touch his cheek. His eyes were wide with hurt. "You hit me." I shook out my numb hand, passed Margaret to Jeremy, and looked Gerald straight in the eyes. "I will say this one last time. Gerald, I am married. The man beside me is my husband. Our daughter is a year and 8 months old. She has absolutely nothing to do with you. Stop making up stories. Stop disturbing my life." After the wedding banquet, Jeremy and I returned home. The atmosphere in the car was heavy with silence. I kept sneaking glances at Jeremy, his expression unreadable. I wanted to say something, but I could not find the words. When we got home, he closed the door and pressed me against it, his lips crashing into mine with urgency. His kiss was deep, passionate, impossible to resist. I gasped softly, grabbing his hand as it moved against my skin. "There is nothing between me and Gerald," I whispered breathlessly. "Really, there is not. I can explain everything to you." Jeremy paused for a moment, eyes locked on mine. He loosened his tie, his voice low and steady. "There is no need, just focus on now. Later." I fell asleep in his arms, exhausted. When I woke up the next morning, the sunlight was already spilling through the curtains. I rubbed my messy hair, got out of bed, and went downstairs. In the kitchen, I saw Jeremy feeding Margaret her breakfast. She was fussing, spitting out the food she disliked, but Jeremy remained patient. He coaxed her softly and gently wiped the food from her chin. The sight touched something deep in me. This scene had once existed only in my dreams. I had married Gerald filled with hope and longing, imagining a life full of love and family. But 3 years ago, that dream was shattered. I thought my life would never recover from the wreckage, and then I met Jeremy. He was a friend of my uncle's. When I first arrived in Country M, my uncle was too busy to pick me up, so he asked Jeremy to go in his place. That day, I had just woken from a long flight, and on the plane, I had dreamed of a little girl. I could not see her face clearly, only that she wore 2 ponytails. She said softly, "Mom and Dad do not love each other anymore. Mom, I will come find you next time." As soon as I landed, I broke down in tears. I cried the entire way. Jeremy did not say a word. He just quietly handed me tissues as he drove. Later, he told my uncle and grandmother everything that had happened. Seeing that I was withdrawn and quiet all day, my uncle tried to match me with Jeremy. At first, I had no intention of agreeing, but my uncle asked, "Do you plan to stay single for the rest of your life?" Gerald may have been a scumbag, but not all men are like him. Lowering his voice, he continued, "Jade, listen to me. The wounds that man gave you can only be healed by someone new. Jeremy may be a bit older, but he is dependable and knows how to take care of people. You should give him a chance." Instead of clinging to the past, he ended with a knowing smile. I was stunned, sensing there was more behind his words. Half-heartedly, I agreed to stay in touch with Jeremy, but to my surprise, the quiet man turned out to be more suitable for me than Gerald ever was. Eventually, we confirmed our relationship, and he proposed. We got married. On our wedding day, my uncle got drunk and held my hand tightly. You're too impulsive, he muttered. I told you to let go of the heartbreak, not to jump into something new. I glanced at Jeremy beside me, giving him an awkward smile. His dark eyes glinted, and he smiled as he helped my uncle up. Uncle, I promise I will take good care of Jade. Somehow, Gerald got hold of my phone number. When I answered an unfamiliar call, I was caught completely off guard. Hello, who is this? There was a long silence. It's Gerald, he said. I hung up without hesitation, but he kept calling, over and over again. I grew irritated. What do you want? I asked bluntly. His tone softened into something almost pleading. I do not want anything. I just want to talk to you. Jade, where have you been all these years? I miss you so much, ever since you left. I have not been able to forget you. I am still living in the house we used to share. I am stuck in the past. Please come back, Jade. His words sounded strangely familiar. Then I remembered, he had said something almost identical to Lillian when she returned to the country. It was just copy and paste. Gerald's love always seemed shallow. I let out a cold snort. If you are unwell, see a doctor. Delusions left untreated turn into mental illness. I am very happy now. Please stop bothering me. Have you forgotten what you said when we got divorced? He asked, his voice tight. Are you really married to him? Yes. When? 2 years ago. There was a pause. Then he laughed bitterly. I have been searching for you everywhere for 3 years, and in less than a year, you forgot about me, built a new life, got married, and had a child. You left me behind to suffer alone. His voice suddenly grew more agitated. Jade, are you really that heartless? I have spent 3 whole years looking for you. Every single day, I lived in regret and fear. I was terrified you had done something to yourself. Then one day, you appeared again. I was overjoyed. I finally saw you, but you are married now, and you have a child. You have a happy life. What about me, Jade? What am I supposed to do? How can you expect me not to reach out to you? I remained silent for half a minute. Fate really plays tricks on people. I had once been at the bottom, drowning in sorrow, clawing my way out inch by inch, and now, the very man who pushed me into that darkness was the one begging for help. I sighed quietly and hung up. The whole exchange left me a little unsettled. I sent a message to Jeremy. When you are done with work, let's go home. He replied almost instantly. Okay, but just moments later, Gerald began bombarding me with texts. Then he even showed up outside my building, looking at his persistent figure from my window. I sighed. If Jeremy saw him, things might get complicated, so I decided to meet Gerald in a nearby cafe to talk. When I arrived, Gerald was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I found Lillian sitting at the table, arms crossed, looking furious. As soon as she saw me, she sneered, Jade, you are like a stain that just will not wash away. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, taking in my appearance and the designer clothes I was wearing. She gave a mocking laugh. Well, you really played your cards right. Back then, you could not compete with me, so you faked your death and left the country. You made Gerald pine for you for years. I actually thought you were some poor, innocent victim. I laughed in disbelief. After everything she had done to sabotage my marriage, how dare she accuse me like this? Lillian, I am already married. You do not need to act so hostile anymore. Where is Gerald? She narrowed her eyes as if thinking, then frowned. Who knows? Maybe you deliberately showed up here with a child just to provoke him. You stood where you knew he would see you. You caught his attention and then acted cold and distant. Is that not revenge? Is that child even Gerald's? My expression turned cold. She had pulled this same trick 3 years ago, finding some random male friend to get close with just to make Gerald jealous. Some things never change. In the end, Gerald lost control and left marks all over Lillian's body. As if trying to prove she belonged to him, those bright red hickeys stood out like bruises of possession. But people with filthy minds always assume others are just as dirty. I gave a cold laugh and said, not all men are so irresistible. I don't care about trash like Gerald. You don't need to act so guarded around me. You're giving him too much credit. A hoarse voice came from behind. Jade. I turned around to see Gerald, who had somehow appeared without me noticing. He had changed into a fresh suit. His hair was neatly combed, and the wrinkles on his clothes had been smoothed out. It was clear he had dressed up carefully, but his face was pale. And there was something pitiful about the way he stood there. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, my wrist was suddenly seized. Lillian's eyes turned red instantly as tears began to fall. "Jade, please," she cried, her voice trembling. "Please give Gerald back to me. We've been in love for so many years. If it hadn't been for you, we would have gotten married long ago. We're already engaged. The wedding is on the 18th of next month. Why did you have to come back now of all times?" She sobbed harder. "I know you hate me, but I had no choice. I'm pregnant. This is Gerald's first child. Please, for the sake of the baby, let him go." The coffee shop was dead silent. All eyes were on us. I frowned deeply, unable to understand what kind of game she was playing now. The very next moment, she let out a sudden scream and threw herself backward, dragging my hand with her as if I had pushed her. It was the same old trick, but this time, I caught her. Her scream cut off abruptly. A flicker of panic passed through her eyes. She tried to struggle free, but I was done playing along. Losing patience, I let go and kicked her squarely in the calf. "I already said, anyone who wants that piece of trash can have him," I shouted. "Just stop bothering me." Lillian whimpered and lost her balance. She fell to the floor like a limp frog, hunched over, holding her stomach, putting on a pitiful show. "Gerald, it hurts," she moaned. "This is our baby." Gerald took a step forward. But instead of going to her, he stood in front of me. He said coldly, "You used that trick to make me lose a child 3 years ago. I won't fall for it again. Stop pretending." "Lillian, I always took precautions, every single time." He turned to me. "Let's go." Behind us, Lillian's eyes widened in disbelief. She never expected Gerald to be so heartless. "Gerald, you can't do this to me," she screamed, her voice raw and desperate. "I gave you everything. You can't treat me like this." The pain in her voice made me pause and glance back. Tears streamed down her face. Her usual delicate, composed demeanor was completely gone. Now she lay on the ground, humiliated, with no dignity left. A cold sense of irony washed over me. Those who go too far always end up destroying themselves. The karma she had sown 3 years ago had finally come full circle. Outside the cafe, Gerald's hand hung stiffly by his side, his fingers curling inwards. "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" he asked quietly. "If I had known, maybe we wouldn't have divorced, maybe we still had a chance." His words made me laugh, a sharp, bitter laugh. "A chance," I echoed. Gerald looked flustered. "I'm the father. I had the right to know." "You didn't deserve that right," I said coldly. "When I learned I was pregnant, you were already gone. Back then, we were barely speaking. You were cold and distant. That final night, you came home drunk, stumbled into our bedroom, wrapped your arms around me, and muttered, 'Baby, I was wrong. Don't ignore me. Let's live a good life together.' For a moment, my frozen heart began to thaw. I thought maybe, just maybe, there was hope, until I saw the fresh hickey on Lillian's neck that night. Then I realized everything. You were just jealous. You had nowhere else to vent your emotions. So you came back to me." From that moment on, my heart completely shut down. I made up my mind. I wanted a divorce, but what I did not expect was that I was pregnant. 3 years ago, when I came to you to get the house key and move my belongings, you pushed me down the stairs. For Lillian, I was dizzy from the fall, my stomach cramped in pain. I held on to the hem of your pants and begged you to take me to the hospital. But what did you do? Lillian said her foot hurt. And you carried her away without a second glance. You only cared about whether her injury would affect her future dancing career. Did you ever once think about what would happen to me, in the end? It was a stranger, a complete stranger, who called the ambulance for me. Gerald's face turned ghostly pale. He lowered his head, eyes flickering, lips trembling. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Finally, he looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "I'm sorry, Jade. I didn't know you were pregnant. I swear, I didn't know." But those words meant nothing now. Nothing he said could bring that child back. In the end, Gerald fell silent. Maybe it was for the best that the child was never born. Back then, with how obsessed he was with Lillian, even if he had known I was pregnant, would anything have changed? He probably thought I was using the child to get his attention. But a child raised in such a broken, unhealthy relationship would never find happiness. It does not matter anymore. It is all in the past. "Gerald, you were never a good husband. And you do not deserve to be a father. My current husband is far more capable than you ever were. If there is nothing else, let this be the end. Do not interfere in my life again." There was still reluctance in Gerald's eyes, but he had no reason to stop me. He could only stand there and watch as I turned and walked away. After a few steps, I looked back one last time. For a second, hope flashed in Gerald's eyes, but I gave him a calm smile, full of relief. "I will never forgive you, Gerald. We will never meet again." That was our final goodbye. Gerald's voice, carried softly by the wind, followed me. "Jade, I wish you happiness." And I would be happy. When I returned home, Jeremy had already finished work. He was on the carpet, playing with Margaret. When I stepped through the door, he only looked up briefly, said nothing, and lowered his eyes. There was a hint of sadness in his expression. Margaret, on the other hand, lit up with joy the moment she saw me. She reached out her little arms and called out, "Mom." I walked over, picked her up, and sat beside Jeremy. "What's wrong? Are you upset?" I asked gently. Jeremy shook his head. "No," but after a pause, he looked at me seriously. "Jade, we are married now. I am your husband. You can tell me anything that's on your mind." Jeremy rarely looked this serious. The only other times I had seen this expression were once when he was correcting our daughter for misbehaving, and another during my postpartum recovery when I had quietly gotten up in the night to check on the baby without telling him. Now I understood. Jeremy was upset that I had gone to see Gerald alone. I handed Margaret to the nanny and curled into Jeremy's arms. "Don't be mad, baby," I said softly. "I went to see him today to make things clear. I did not expect him to be so persistent. I thought I could handle it on my own, so I did not bother you while you were working. But it is all settled now. He will not appear in our lives again." I gently comforted him for a while, and his expression gradually softened. I knew that the existence of Gerald still bothered him, so I asked directly, "Do you want to hear about my past with Gerald?" Jeremy only knew that I had been hurt in a previous marriage. He never asked for details. He was always respectful like that. If I chose not to speak, he would never press me, and after I moved to Country M, I had done my best to avoid even thinking about that relationship. In happier times, I had pushed it completely out of my mind. I valued what I had with Jeremy deeply. I never wanted shadows from my past to create a rift between us. After listening, Jeremy was quiet for a long time. His silence was rare, then anger flickered in his eyes. "What a disgusting man," he muttered. I laughed and leaned against him. Yes, he really was. After I finished settling matters in the country, Jeremy booked our return tickets. Before we left, a friend of Jeremy's hosted a farewell dinner for us. At the wedding banquet, Nina, the bride, looked at me with sympathy. She gently patted my hand and asked, "How are you feeling lately? Has it affected you much?" I was caught off guard. "What do you mean?" I asked, puzzled. Nina seemed a bit flustered. Realizing she had said too much, she withdrew her hand awkwardly. I turned to Jeremy, who gave a faint smile. "It's nothing. If you want to know more, you can ask Nina." That was when I learned what had happened. 2 days ago, Lillian had uploaded a video of me online. She spread lies, claiming I was the mistress and had disguised myself as the innocent, wronged woman in the relationship. The video she posted was from the coffee shop. It was utterly ridiculous. "Don't be angry," Jeremy reassured me. "I am already dealing with it," Nina added quickly. "Lillian cannot stir up much trouble. Jeremy has already filed a lawsuit against her, and I am the lawyer he entrusted. Don't worry, I have plenty of experience in this area. I made a name for myself with a similar case. This time, I will do everything I can to make sure she ends up in jail." Her enthusiasm made me laugh, and my gloomy mood suddenly lightened. "All right," I said, "then I will count on lawyer Nina." After that, the conversation turned light-hearted, full of casual chatter and gossip. That was when I learned that Gerald had indeed been searching for me for 3 years. At one point, he even thought I had taken my own life by jumping into a river, just because the last footage captured by a surveillance camera showed me walking in that direction. He had hired a salvage team to search for my body, a display of false affection. Really, was it not him who had driven me to leave in the first place? I had never hidden my flight itinerary. It would not have been hard to find out where I went, but he stubbornly believed I would never actually leave him, so it never even occurred to him to check. 2 months later, I received a message from Nina. She had won the case and successfully had Lillian sentenced. Though it was only a month of detention, it was enough. Once Lillian was in jail, I paid some marketing accounts to spread the news, let her get a taste of the gossip she once loved to use against others. Putting down my phone, I picked up my coat and got ready to take my daughter to her early education class, but just as we got into the car, I saw Gerald again. He looked like he had gone mad. He had followed me all the way abroad and loitered around my neighborhood. I knew he was trying to make amends, but there is no medicine for regret. Some things, once broken, cannot be put back together. We all need to move forward. That was the end. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.